Be honest with yourself. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head, hoping you said the right thing to keep his attention? How many nights have you stared at your phone, waiting for his text, wondering if you mean as much to him as he does to you? And yet, there are women who don't have to wonder. He thinks about them constantly. He remembers the little things. He obsesses. Why? Because they know how to press the right emotional buttons, without even seeming like they're trying. Doesn't every woman want that kind of power? To live in his mind rent-free? To be the thought he can't shake off no matter what he's doing? What if I told you it's not luck, it's psychology? And once you learn these 7 tricks, he won't just want you. You know that feeling when you pour your heart into someone? When you give pieces of yourself you didn't even know you had? And still, it never feels like enough. You try to laugh at his jokes a little louder, you dress a little nicer when you know he's going to see you, you replay your words in your head after every conversation, hoping you didn't sound too eager, too needy, too much. But deep down, you wonder if he even notices. Or worse, if he would notice if you disappeared. Nights become the hardest. That silence in the room feels heavier than any noise. You glance at your phone more times than you admit to yourself, waiting for his name to flash across the screen, waiting for that tiny vibration that tells you you're on his mind. But the minutes stretch into hours, the hours into long, lonely nights, and still, nothing. And in that silence you start questioning your worth. Am I not interesting enough? Did I say something wrong? Why is it so easy for him to forget me when I can't seem to get him out of my head? You scroll through old texts just to feel that rush of when things felt exciting, when he used to respond quickly, when he used to chase. You reread his words, searching for proof that you weren't imagining things, that at some point you really did matter to him. And every time you see that old energy, the emojis, the long messages, the late night talks, you ache. Because now the energy is gone. He's shorter with his words, colder with his tone, distracted in ways he never used to be, and you're left replaying the difference, like a song that keeps breaking your heart. And then comes the sting of comparison. You notice the way he lights up when he talks about someone else, or the way his eyes wander when a pretty woman walks past. You tell yourself not to notice, not to care, but you do. And it hurts, because you start to wonder, why not me? What does she have that I don't? Why does it look so effortless for her when I feel like I'm climbing a mountain just to hold his attention? You find yourself trapped in a cycle, wanting to pull back so he chases, but terrified that if you do, he'll just let go completely. So you keep giving. You keep showing up. You keep hoping that maybe this time he'll notice how much you care. Maybe this time he'll see your effort and give you the reassurance you crave. But the truth is, that reassurance rarely comes, and every time it doesn't, it chips away at your spirit a little more. There are moments when you sit in front of the mirror, staring at yourself, picking apart your reflection, wondering if changing something about you would make a difference. If you were thinner, curvier, prettier, maybe then he'd stay. If you were calmer, funnier, more mysterious, maybe then he'd finally give you what you're giving him. And that voice in your head, soft but relentless, keeps whispering, maybe I'm just not enough. But what makes it even more painful is that deep down, you know your love is rare. You know you're the kind of woman who would stand by him when the world turns away, the kind of woman who would celebrate his victories and sit with him in his darkest storms. And yet, that devotion feels invisible. You feel unseen, like your love is too loud for someone who's only half listening. It's a lonely kind of ache, loving someone who doesn't meet you at the same depth. It makes you feel like you're screaming underwater, your lungs burning, your heart racing, but no sound is reaching the surface. He goes about his day carefree, while you're drowning in thoughts of him. And that imbalance, that quiet pain of giving more than you receive, becomes something you carry like a secret. Because you can't always tell your friends. You don't want to look foolish for loving so deeply, for wanting something that seems so simple to be wanted in return. You smile when they ask how things are going. You say, "We're fine," even though your chest feels heavy with unshed tears. And when you're finally alone, you let the mask slip, and all the questions you hold inside come rushing back. Why can't he love me the way I love him? Why do I feel invisible when I give so much? And will I ever be the woman who makes a man obsess the way I obsess over him? You know what makes this pain even heavier? It's that so many women start to believe it's their fault, that if they could just do more, say more, give more, then maybe he'd finally notice, maybe he'd finally care in the way they long for. But here's the truth that often gets buried under all the overthinking. It's not that you're not enough. It's that somewhere along the way, you were taught to love in a way that forgets you. From the time we're little girls, we're shown stories of women who prove their worth through sacrifice. Movies, books, even the relationships we see around us. They whisper the same message, that if you're patient enough, loyal enough, forgiving enough, a man will eventually wake up and realize your value. So you wait, you give, you compromise, you learn to swallow your own needs, because deep down you've been conditioned to believe that being chosen is the reward for enduring. But here's what happens. When a woman starts to give without boundaries, when she pours endlessly into a man who hasn't earned it, something shifts. Not in her, but in him. Instead of treasuring the love, he begins to take it for granted. Instead of chasing, he relaxes into the comfort of knowing you'll always be there no matter what. And slowly, without meaning to, your love stops being magnetic. It starts becoming invisible. And I know that hurts to hear, because your love is powerful, your heart is strong. But men aren't wired to obsess over what feels guaranteed. They crave challenge, mystery, a sense of earning your presence. And when that disappears, so does their intensity. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how he can spend hours focused on something he wants? A new project, a career goal, even a video game? His attention becomes laser sharp when there's something to pursue. But with you, it's different. And it's not because you're less valuable. It's because he no longer feels like there's anything to reach for. That's the hidden truth so many women overlook. They believe that giving more will fill the gap, but often it does the opposite. The more you bend, the more he leans back. The more you sacrifice, the more he assumes it's normal. And what was once precious becomes ordinary. It's not fair, and it's not something anyone teaches us. No one tells you that men don't just fall in love with what you give. They fall in love with what they feel they could lose. And that fear of losing you, that sense of not fully possessing you, is what fuels their obsession. But because most women never hear this, they repeat the same cycle. They stay up late waiting for the text, they replay conversations in their minds, they overcompensate with affection, with patience, with second chances. And every time they do, they lose a little more of the spark that drew him in at the beginning. And maybe this sounds familiar. Maybe you're realizing right now that you've been carrying all the weight of the relationship on your shoulders, while he gets to simply receive. And yet, the more you give, the more invisible you feel. It's a heartbreaking loop. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not unworthy. You've just been playing by rules that were never designed to make him chase you. You've been told to love harder, when what actually makes a man obsess is something entirely different. And once you understand that shift, once you see the hidden psychology at play, you'll stop wondering what's wrong with you and start realizing what's really been missing all along. Because here's the part most women never realize. When you finally reach that point where you're tired of waiting, tired of questioning your worth, tired of wondering why he doesn't feel the same intensity that you do, the most powerful thing you can do is shift the focus back to yourself. Because the truth is, obsession begins when a man feels your value. And he feels it most when you carry yourself with dignity and self-respect. This isn't about playing games, and it's not about punishing him. It's about remembering that you're not meant to beg for love. You're meant to invite it, and only accept it when it shows up fully. The first step is learning to set quiet boundaries. Boundaries aren't about drawing a hard line in anger. They're about softly but firmly honoring your worth. Emotionally, this means you stop making excuses for behavior that leaves you hurt or anxious. Practically, it means you don't rush to respond the moment he finally remembers to text. It means if he cancels last minute, you don't immediately clear your schedule again to fit into his. An example of this might be when he says, "Sorry, I can't make it tonight, maybe tomorrow." Instead of saying, "Sure, whenever you're free," you calmly reply, "That doesn't work for me, let's plan for another day." In that moment, you're not punishing him, you're showing that your time is valuable. And when a man realizes he can't take your presence for granted, something shifts inside him. He starts to see you differently, not as someone who will always bend, but as someone whose respect must be earned. The second step is reconnecting with your own life in a way that makes you radiant again. It's easy to lose yourself in a relationship, to let his attention, or lack of it, dictate how you feel day by day. But obsession grows when he sees you living fully, not waiting around for him to fill your world. Emotionally, this step is about rediscovering the parts of yourself you might have put on pause. The hobbies, the passions, the dreams you've been quietly shelving while giving all of yourself to him. Practically, it means filling your days with things that light you up, so you're not staring at your phone wondering why he hasn't called. Imagine this. Instead of spending a Saturday night waiting for his plans to solidify, you decide to go out with friends, laugh until your stomach hurts, and come home glowing with joy. When he finally texts you late, asking what you're doing, you can truthfully say, "Just got back from a great night out." That energy, the energy of a woman who is full and alive, makes him feel like he's missing out, because suddenly you're not orbiting around him. You've become the sun again, and he has to work to earn a place in your light. The third step is using your voice without fear. So many women stay silent about what bothers them because they're terrified of pushing him away. But silence is what creates the ache of invisibility. When you speak your truth, calmly and without pleading, you stand in your dignity. Emotionally, this step is about finding the courage to express what you need, knowing that asking for clarity doesn't make you needy, it makes you real. Practically, it means saying things like, "I feel hurt when you disappear for days without reaching out. If this connection matters to you, I need consistency." Imagine you've been waiting for days for him to follow through on something he promised. Instead of stuffing down the frustration, you tell him directly, with steady calmness, "I need actions to match your words. That's important to me." He may not like hearing it, but deep down, it commands his respect. Because men remember the women who hold them accountable. They may test boundaries, but they never forget the ones who stand firmly in their truth. And finally, there's a step that is both the hardest and the most freeing, letting go of the outcome. This doesn't mean giving up on love. It means releasing the desperate need for his validation to define your value. Emotionally, this is about shifting from a place of fear, "What if he doesn't want me?" to a place of confidence, "I am worthy whether he sees it or not." Practically, it means you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop begging him to see your worth. Imagine you've been waiting for him to choose you, and instead of hanging on his every word, you look at yourself in the mirror one morning and say, "If he doesn't step up, I will still be okay. In fact, I will be more than okay." And that shift is magnetic, because when a woman no longer clings, when she no longer lets her sense of worth be tied to his behavior, she radiates something irresistible. It's in that release that men often start to feel what they once overlooked: the fear of losing you. These steps aren't about changing who you are. They're about peeling back the layers of fear, doubt, and overgiving that hide your true power. And when you live with quiet boundaries, a full life, a strong voice, and the courage to let go of what doesn't honor you, You don't just handle the situation with dignity, you transform it. You stop being the woman who waits, and you become the woman who is waited for. There comes a moment in every woman's journey where the pain she's carried begins to feel lighter. Not because the situation has magically changed, but because she has. And maybe, as you've been listening to these words, you've started to feel something stir inside you, a reminder of who you really are beneath the doubts, the waiting, the overthinking. A reminder that you are not here to beg for scraps of attention, but to be cherished, respected, and adored for the fullness of who you are. You see, when a woman stops measuring her worth by how a man treats her, she begins to reclaim something far more powerful, her own sense of dignity. And dignity is magnetic. It's the quiet, unshakable glow that makes people lean in, that makes them wonder how you carry yourself with such grace. It's not arrogance, it's not indifference, it's the strength of knowing deep in your bones that you deserve love that is whole, not half-hearted. I know it hasn't been easy. I know the nights you've cried quietly into your pillow, afraid that no one would ever see you the way you've always longed to be seen. I know the days you felt invisible, like your love was too much for someone who couldn't handle it. And I know how heavy it feels when you're loving with both hands, but he's only reaching out with one. But here's the truth, those tears, those questions, those moments of doubt, they don't make you weak, they make you human. They make you a woman with a heart so alive that it refuses to settle for less than it deserves. And that is something to be proud of. Because the very fact that you felt deeply, that you've given deeply, means you're capable of creating the kind of love that changes lives. Not every man will be ready for it. Not every man will rise to meet it. But that doesn't mean your love is too much. It means your love is rare. And rare things are never found everywhere. They are sought, treasured, and protected when the right one recognizes their value. So instead of looking at yourself through the lens of who didn't stay, start seeing yourself through the lens of who you truly are. A woman with a fire inside her. A woman with resilience stitched into her soul. A woman who has the courage to keep showing up for herself, even when others fall short. There will come a day when the right man looks at you and sees what you've always known deep down, that you were never meant to be an afterthought. You were never meant to be good enough to pass the time. You were meant to be chosen fully, with clarity and without hesitation. And when that day comes, you'll understand why the ones who overlooked you never truly mattered. They weren't the ones meant to hold your heart. But until that day, your job isn't to wait, it's to rise. To live so fully that your joy can't be dimmed by silence. To walk so confidently that even your footsteps echo with self-respect. To love yourself so fiercely that no one else's lack of effort can convince you to shrink. Because when you carry yourself that way, you don't just inspire obsession, you inspire devotion, the kind that lasts, the kind that builds, the kind that makes every tear, every sleepless night, every doubt you've ever carried, finally make sense. And here's what I want you to remember. You are already enough. You are already worthy. You are already the kind of woman who deserves a love that feels certain. Stop waiting for someone else to prove that to you. Start walking like it's already true, because it is. So, lift your chin, breathe deep, and remember that the story isn't over. It's just beginning. You're stepping into a new chapter now. One where you are no longer defined by the times you were overlooked, but by the strength you found in yourself. And when you doubt, when the questions creep back in, hold on to this. You are not hard to love. You are just waiting for love that's real. The right man won't make you question your worth. He'll make you forget you ever doubted it. Stop chasing and start choosing, because you were never meant to beg for what should be freely given. These are not just words to remember, they are truths to live by, and when you do, you'll never feel invisible again.